It's illegal to kill Bigfoot, and you're not allowed to let your donkey sleep in a bathtub. If I didn't know any better, I would think that someone made these things up, but nope, these are real American laws. Hallo, servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli, I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio since 2016. In the land of the free, as they say, but sometimes it's not all that free because there are some pretty crazy laws for very specific things that are actually forbidden in the US. And when you hear about those, it just makes you wonder, how did this scenario even become a topic in the first place? So after I talked about 6 crazy laws in Germany last month, here are 13 crazy and admittedly very funny laws in the US. And yes, it's 13 this time instead of just 6 because if you're looking for crazy, this is the place for it. One thing that's not forbidden though, thank God, is having meal kits with seasonal recipes and pre-measured ingredients delivered directly to your door with HelloFresh. If you listen to my podcast or follow me on social media, you already know this, but I'm moving this weekend. So when you see this, I'm either currently carrying a heavy dresser down the stairs, or maybe I'm already fully moved in, that'd be ideal. And you don't really want to buy a whole week's worth of fresh groceries right before you move, which means that I've mainly been living off sandwiches this past week, but luckily, HelloFresh saved my ass with their delivery. As you guys know, I personally don't like meat, so I picked the veggie version again, but you can also pick other food preferences, such as meat and veggies, family-friendly, calorie-smart, pescatarian, or quick and easy, and you'll get everything you need to cook your meals delivered to your door. And guys, honestly, every meal I've made with HelloFresh so far has been a 10 out of 10. Most of them have been recipes that I probably wouldn't even try usually, because I'm more the type of person that always makes the same things every week. So yeah, I would have missed out on this amazing zucchini and tomato flatbread, for example, that only takes 25 minutes to make. These were the ingredients I got for the 2-person box, but you can also get it for a whole family. And all I had to do was preheat the oven with an oiled sheet in it, chop up the zucchini and tomatoes, mince the garlic, and zest and quarter the lemon. Then I fried the zucchini in olive oil and mix the tomatoes with garlic, olive oil, and salt and pepper. For the base layer on the flatbreads, I then mixed the ricotta cheese with some of the lemon zest, lemon juice, as well as olive oil, and then spread that onto the flatbreads. And then I topped it with zucchini and tomatoes, and on one of them I decided to add some Parmesan to it too. Well, not some Parmesan, lots of Parmesan. I let it bake for 10 to 12 minutes and then had these beauties that I just topped with parsley, chives, lemon, chili flakes, and honey, which tasted surprisingly good, and then I just enjoyed my dinner. Now, obviously, not all of you guys are moving right now, lucky you, but HelloFresh is actually perfect for your regular, everyday life routine as well, because it brings variety into your dinners, and it saves you so much time and even up to 30% of your money compared to getting groceries at the store. If you want to try HelloFresh yourself, now is the time, because with my code FELI14, you can get 14 free meals plus free shipping on HelloFresh.com. I'm super excited to try out the other recipes from this week's box as well. I got Middle Eastern chickpea bowls and black bean and poblano quesadillas. I absolutely love Mexican food and especially quesadillas, so I can't wait to make those. I'll share some of it on my Instagram story as well, so make sure to follow me on there. And if you want to join me in my little cooking journey, just go to HelloFresh.com and use my code FELI14 to receive 14 free meals and free shipping. Guten Appetit! Now, the first law on my list of crazy things that are forbidden in the US is from Arizona, where it's illegal to let your donkey sleep in a bathtub. According to my research, this law was brought into effect in the year 1924 after an incident near the city of Kingman in the northwestern part of the state. According to the story, there was a merchant who had a donkey, and the donkey got used to sleeping in an abandoned bathtub on the property. The problem occurred when a local dam broke and the whole town was flooded. The donkey and its bathtub were flushed about 1 mile down the valley before it ended up in a basin, so like a Flussbett in German. It took a lot of manpower, time, and money to save the donkey, and after that experience, it became illegal for donkeys to sleep in bathtubs, and the law exists to this day. They are, however, allowed to stand in a bathtub, for a bath, for example. And we'll stick with animals because in Fairbanks, Alaska, it's illegal to give alcohol to a moose. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find the original story that this law goes back to, even though I'm sure it's a very entertaining one. However, drunk moose are actually a common phenomenon. In Scandinavia, they often get drunk on accident by eating fermented apples. In the US, the last famous drunk moose was Buzzwinkle, who was a well-known moose in the city of Anchorage, also in Alaska, because it frequently wandered through the streets of the city. One day, in November of 2007, he somehow got his hands on some fermented crabapple cocktails in the courtyard of a local bar, which got him really drunk, and later he was seen parading down the streets with some Christmas lights tangled around his antlers. Local media then gave him the name Buzzwinkle. By the way, the reason why you come across these super specific laws in the US is that not every law here has to be decided by a parliament or city council, but instead there is such a thing as case law here, so judge-made laws that are simply based on previous court rulings. And that's why in Connecticut, a pickle can't legally be called a pickle unless it bounces when dropped from a height of 1 foot. This goes back to the year 1948, when the two pickle packers Sidney Sparer and Moses Drexler were arrested for selling pickles that were unfit for human consumption. So they had gone bad, basically. As a result of this, the Connecticut Food and Drug Commissioner Frederick Holcomb tried to identify ways to check whether a pickle was good or not, and told reporters that in addition to the laboratory tests they had been doing, you could also, quote, drop it 1 foot and it should bounce. The pickles in question did not bounce, and Sidney Sparer had to pay a fine of $500, which was the highest possible amount at the time, and the pickles were destroyed. Now, to get away from these rather funny sounding laws for a second, one thing that's pretty crazy to us Germans is that in the entire US, it's illegal to import and sell these things. Kinderüberraschungseier, surprise eggs. In Germany, they're a childhood staple. They have a chocolate shell with this white cream layer on the inside, and they come with a surprise toy in the middle. Sometimes they're just little figures, but sometimes you'll get a bunch of little pieces and a little manual, and you have to put it together yourself, and then it can actually do something, like it's a little car with spinning wheels, for example. Those toys were even more popular in my childhood. But in the US, the surprise eggs are banned because under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, it's not allowed for confectionery products to contain a non-nutritive object, meaning food can't contain a non-food item, and one of the reasonings I've heard is that because it would be a choking hazard for kids. Now, while I see the logic behind that, I can guarantee you that it's not like anyone has ever just bitten into a Kinder Egg and accidentally swallowed the toy in the middle, because first of all, what psycho takes a bite of it just like that? You obviously separate it in 2 halves first, and the toy comes in these oval yellow capsules, and I think even if you tried, it would be really hard to swallow that. Now, of course, little pieces of plastic might be dangerous for little kids, but that's nothing specific about the Kinder Eggs. That's true for little toys that come without candy too. So even though I understand the thought behind it, I think it's a pretty crazy law, especially in a country where a child is legally allowed to own a rifle in 30 states. This also brings up the question why fortune cookies are allowed in the US then, but apparently this is because the paper inside the fortune cookies is technically edible. You're not supposed to eat it, but you wouldn't die from it. Since 2017, at least the Kinder Joy eggs are a thing in the US. They're a little different from the traditional Kinder eggs because the shell is actually made of plastic, and then the one half has a candy filling and the other half has a toy in it. So the food and the toy are separated, and therefore it's allowed. But if you do want to try the real Kinder eggs someday, all you have to do is either go north or south, because fortunately they're legal in both Canada and Mexico. Another thing that's kind of crazy from a German perspective are the drinking laws in the US. Now there's a lot to talk about here. If you want to learn more about the differences in drinking culture, check out this video. But besides the drinking age, 20-year-olds not being able to even step foot into a bar, and the ban of alcohol in public, one thing that makes me shake my head every single time are the open container laws in cars. These laws vary from state to state, but in the majority of the US, in over 40 states, you can't have an open alcohol container in your car. Now, I totally understand that it's illegal for there to be an opened beer can in the driving console or something like that. Although even that is legal in Germany, but it prohibits the presence of any type of unsealed container that contains or contained an alcoholic beverage, including bottles, cans, flasks, and other types of containers. Meaning, even if the container is closed, it's not allowed if it has been opened before. So a bottle of liquor with a reclosable lid isn't allowed either. I've been in so many situations where me and my friends wanted to just, let's say, bring the wine bottle from last night with us. Nope, you can't do that because it's been opened before and isn't sealed anymore. Or when I went to a music festival in Delaware last month, I refilled some liquor into plastic bottles because you can't bring glass bottles to the campgrounds, and then I realized that these plastic bottles aren't sealed either and technically count as an open container, even if they're somewhere in a bag on the back seat. Now, here in Ohio, and I would think in other states as well, you are allowed to put open containers in the trunk. But I think this only works if you have a car where the trunk is separated from the rest. So in my hatchback, where it's all connected, I don't think I'm allowed to do that. Isn't that crazy? But let's go back to more lighthearted laws in the US. In West Virginia, children aren't allowed to attend school if their breath smells like onions. I mean, that's literally every child's dream. Legally skipping school? I mean, what else do you want? Now, the exact wording of the law specifically mentions wild onions. And this is because in West Virginia, they have a certain type of wild onion called ramps. And those are famous for their foul odor. It's even said that when they're being cooked, you can smell them from like a mile away. So you might think twice about it before you eat those just to skip school. The next law is something that we might actually need in Germany. In Massachusetts, it's illegal to sing or play the national anthem wrong in a public place. If you've ever seen a soccer game with the German national team, you may have noticed how a lot of the players don't know the words to their own national anthem, and I think that's the case for a lot of Germans. It probably has to do with the lack of patriotism in Germany. The anthem just doesn't really play a big role in everyday life, but that's a different topic. Anyways, in Massachusetts, you better be careful not to mess up the American anthem when performing it in public. Even though I'm not quite sure if they would punish you for simply messing up the lyrics or forgetting a part. Based on how it's phrased, I feel like this was more about butchering the anthem on purpose to convey certain political messages. Something similar can be found in Arkansas, where they made sure that people don't mispronounce their state name. It's not Arkansas, even though that's how it's spelled, it's Arkansas. The statute describes it very detailed, actually. It should be pronounced in 3 syllables with the final S silent, the A in each syllable with the Italian sound, and the accent on the first and last syllables. The pronunciation with the accent on the second syllable, with the sound of A in man and the sound of the terminal S, is an innovation to be discouraged. Now, even though you'll often read that it's literally illegal in Arkansas to pronounce the name incorrectly, the wording doesn't actually use words like must, but it says should and discouraged instead, and it's never been prosecuted, so I don't think it counts as an actual law. What is an actual law, though, is that in 2 counties in Washington state, it's illegal to kill a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Yes. Really. Skamania County has had a law for that since 1969, and in Whatcom County, they passed a resolution in 1992. And even though this sounds really funny, it actually kind of makes sense. I mean, just imagine finding out that those creatures are real after all, but only when it's already been killed. And it can also be dangerous if people were to try and kill what they think is Bigfoot, but in reality, it's a person. Now, there are actually tons of articles and lists out there that have hundreds of dumb and crazy American laws listed, many of them being state and local laws. But when you look into it more, it seems like for most of those, there's no actual source. So it seems like they're probably more urban legends than actual laws. But even though I couldn't find any evidence for these to be true, I do want to tell you a few of them because they're just so funny that I actually really wish they were true. And I mean, even if they're myths, there has to be some origin, right? So supposedly, in Louisiana, it's illegal to tie an alligator to a fire hydrant. In Marion, Ohio, it's illegal to eat a donut while walking backward. I found that same law for Marion, Oregon too though, so something's definitely wrong here. In Illinois, it's illegal to fish while sitting on the neck of a giraffe. I guess that means I'm gonna have to find a different state for that now. And in Washington, it's supposedly mandatory for a motorist with criminal intentions when they're coming into a town to stop at the city limits and inform the chief of police that they're entering the town. Again, most of those laws on those lists don't appear to be true, or at least I couldn't find any evidence, but they're really entertaining. So I'll just list some articles about those in both English and German down below. Also, happy Halloween, everyone. I hope you've had a great Halloween weekend so far. And since I always get asked if Halloween is a thing in Germany too, I actually made a whole video about that last year, so just click up here or down below and find out if Germans celebrate Halloween. And Josh and I also talked about it in the latest Understanding Train Station podcast episode, which you can also find down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you like my content, follow me on social media, and please let me know in the comments below if you know any details about these laws that I mentioned in the video, or if I got anything wrong, or if you know of any other crazy American laws that you actually know to be true. I would love to find out if there are more of those that aren't just an urban myth. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope I'll see you next time. Tschüss!